Hello, everyone. I am really pleased to have a special visitor with us at our Women in Project Management event, and that is LuAnn Piccard. LuAnn is the professor and department chair of the University of Anchorage at Alaska, but also, and important to us, she is the chair of the board of directors for PMI. And that is an important job because it basically gives all of our members a voice. Thank you for joining us today, LuAnn.
No, thank you so much, Liz. I'm delighted to be here.
So today we're talking all about setting objectives, finding our path, and making the actions to take steps to make that path a reality. We'd like to hear from you on a few points. I've already prepared some questions, so I'll go ahead and just get stuck in. Why reflect on goals? Why do goals matter?
Well, goals matter because it sort of charts a course for where you want to head, which is, where the opportunity is that you want to be able to pursue. So it's always really important to say, hey, this is what I'd like to do, or where I'd like to contribute, or where you would like to add value. And then that helps you to set goals that establish where your passion and where your passion is, where you want to head, and where you can uniquely add value. But it's also important when you're setting those goals not to be really rigid about what that looks like and how that feels to you, because oftentimes what you'll find is that there is a lot of opportunity there that it exists if you just if your mind is open to it. But goals are very important because it charts that path to where you'd like to head, where you can add value, and where you can distinguish yourself.
You mentioned briefly there about focus versus being open to opportunities. And I was just reading a book about disruption from the Nintendo president, and he was talking about the same point. Can you elaborate that? How do we find balance between having focus and being open to new opportunities?
It's great to hear that we would resonate on that point, because I personally, and throughout my career, and what I would really encourage all of us to be doing is recognizing that uncertainty isn't something to be afraid of. Uncertainty is something that allows you to find opportunity, because I really do believe in uncertainty is where innovation lives and opportunity actually thrives. So if everything you do follows a very prescribed path, then you don't really have the opportunity to demonstrate how unique you are and what you can bring that's very that's potentially very different. Again, setting the goal of where you want to head, but how you do it, what you do to get there, the processes you use, the approaches that you take, the value, the initiative that you take, the innovation is, I think, incredibly important to always be open to those, because I do believe that that's uncertainty, as scary as it might be, particularly in today's times where it can be a bit overwhelming and can be challenging. It's really where again, where innovation lives and opportunity grows. And I would, so for us, when we're approaching our career, it's really good to be focused on the outcomes or the things that we want to be able to deliver. But it's also very important that we allow ourselves the flexibility and the freedom to explore the edges around that, because that's where we may have the possibility to really learn and grow, but also distinguish ourselves in unique ways because of the value that we can deliver by exploring that uncertainty.
I love that. So speaking of value, and I love that idea of exploring the edges and innovation, because that's all about disruption. And disruption is where we are today, right? With AI and all the other stuff happening. So a point you've made is value. Let's drill down on that a bit. So how do you know about the value of yourself? And how do you make sure that others understand the value you're bringing to the organization, to the project, and also to the team? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think in everything we do, we have to be able to identify what that value is that we deliver. People use the term value proposition a lot, but I think value at a fundamental level can come in many, many forms. It can be the approach that you take. Sometimes people think it's the end product of what you're delivering. So the solution or the project value or the what you're creating, there's value there. But I also think there's a lot of value just in who you are and how you approach doing what you do. Imagine if you're a project manager and you're delivering a complex solution that has a really, really significant component of very complicated stakeholder management. how you present yourself, how you do that job of stakeholder engagement can distinguish yourself as much as what it is that you're delivering. How well you present yourself, how well you stand up in front of a group of people and build confidence in what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it, and that other people build confidence in you as a result of that. So don't always just focus on the thing that you're doing. Focus on the relationships that you're building and the value that you're creating there, because those relationships are going to persist and be a part of your network. They're going to be part of your credibility building. So focus on the value you're bringing to other people, the value you're delivering in the solution that you're creating, the value that you in the approach that you take, and then always be able to talk about that. You don't have to be somebody who brags. You can still be very humble, but you can talk about, oh, this is what we did, but always present it in the way of how it's bringing value to the larger organization. So the approach that was taken, gee, what can we learn from how we did that so that we can continue to do that better? But be able to speak to it from the perspective of you having been that innovator, you having been that value delivery agent. And so that people recognize you not only for what you've done, but you are always talking about how that value that you're creating is benefiting people around you, the team, and the organization.
And I think as women, sometimes we stop ourselves because we think, oh, that feels like bragging. So we have to find productive ways to go ahead and break through that barrier and
Exactly.
actually let ourselves shine a little bit, right?
Exactly. And that's a very important thing, is like, I think we do tend to not feel very comfortable being on center stage and talking about what we do. And that's why I think if the conversation that we have is about what was done that added value to someone else or to the organization or to the mission, then the message will be made, but it won't appear as if you're necessarily taking credit for it. Because I don't think the kind of complex work that we do, it's a team sport. And so you're going to be the coach, you're going to be the person, the mentor, the person that's helping to others to achieve their potential to deliver that value. And when you present the value that's been delivered and your role as coach or mentor or facilitator or leader, then it spotlights the credit on the larger, greater good, but it shows that you've been a critical part of that success.
Part of what women also might be challenged with is kind of knowing the art of the possible, knowing what's possible for them. Today we're going to be talking about goal setting, and we might be setting boundaries on ourselves, like, well, I have this or that, or I think I feel a glass ceiling. How can you help us explore those, the edges, as you said, but about our personal edges, our personal boundaries we're setting, and whether we can go through those, blast through those?
That's a really good question, Liz. I think that's a sort of knowing what's possible is a little bit of the art of experience, I think, too, because in certain situations where you have a lot of expertise and you have a lot of experience, sometimes it's a little bit more comfortable to push on those edges, because you feel comfortable that there's a core of what you know and what you've done. And so pushing out from there is a very comfortable thing. I think it is scary and challenging when you walk into a completely new situation that where you maybe need a few guardrails, you need a little bit to be able to help keep you in a stable environment, but then potentially innovate from there. But I would say, I guess I'm the kind of person who just wants to believe anything is possible. I think I'm the product of anything is possible. And I believe that if you keep your mind open to whether it's a small innovation around the edge or a big innovation around the edge, always look for doing something different. I think there's a tendency to sometimes for us to stick to what's working, or I know in the US there's a phrase, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and to excel in something that everybody else understands and can see and is clear. And that can be really effective in certain spaces, but in a world of uncertainty, again, as I said in the beginning, innovation lives on those outer edges. And I have a great I have a great a quote that somebody gave me and that I have on a board in front of my desk in my office. And it says, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. And I think that's really true. I think if you're not challenging yourself, if you're not pushing on those boundaries and those edges, you're going to become complacent. You're not going to continue to learn. And so when you get to that point where it feels uncomfortable, that's exactly where you should push through and try to make something else possible. And it's hard. I call it the speed bump. I know that I get to the speed bump, when you are on roads and they have that the traffic calming and speed bumps. It's like, oh, I get there and maybe it'd be nice just to step back and not go over that. But when I feel it and I see it, that's exactly when I accelerate and power through it, because I know that there's something on the other side of that that's going to be really great.
I love what you said about exploring the edges of what's possible are kind of related to your core. And if you're new or a little bit younger, and we do have some younger women and maybe newer project managers, both men and women. And what I think you might suggest is get a life coach, get a peer coach, or maybe find a mentor to help you, because you can lean on their experience a little bit to fill in those core values where you're thinking, my skills might not be up to speed, but I've got someone as a sounding board. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. The research shows this to be true. And so I'm not being disrespectful to any of our male colleagues that are here in the room, but I would say that men are somewhat socialized to be able to believe in themselves at the get-go, regardless of whether something has been done or not. Women have a tendency to hold back until they feel like they have the credible experience to speak to. And so I think that natural difference can kind of be a distinction in two equal people in terms of equally capable. They may present themselves in slightly different ways. So it's a great idea to have a mentor or a coach or sounding board, because then you can kind of share, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm struggling with, and helping each other collectively build confidence is a great way to get help, but also to give help, because you'll find people in your career that need it as much as you might have at various points in time. And by practicing it yourself, you're going to be a better mentor to others.
And I find in the role I play as mentor for especially young women and men that I improve. I get my foundational skills clearer to myself. Maybe you'd like to end with a story you'd like to share about your own growth path. Would you be willing to share something with the group here?
Sure. And I think this is a really good, so maybe it's a little, early on in my career, maybe, but it really is something that I remember and I recall, and I think it was very seminal in my growth as an individual. So I was as an engineer. I graduated from university with that degree. And I was really excited to go off and, conquer the world. And so I was very privileged to be hired by LuAnn Piccard in Palo Alto, right out of university. And I was so excited to go and start there, because a wonderful company, wonderful people. And I thought, wow, I came from an extremely humble background. And to have been able to get to that point was really, really wonderful for me. And before I start, just to give you some perspective, my dad was telling me that his financial aid package from his family was 4 tires to put on his car in order to drive to college. So his mom gave him one, his brother gave him another, and his sister gave him 2. And I always think about that as, those 4 wheels, those 4 tires, at a metaphorical level is really important, because it created a foundation that allowed him to begin on a journey on that road to success. And but it came from family, so I think that no matter where you start, you can get there, with a bit of support. But in my particular case, I eventually end up at HP, and I'm there. My first 2 days, I'm going to be designing fiber optic transmitters and receivers. So I'm working in R&D, and I'm going to be doing this job, and I'm so excited. And I get there, and I look around myself, and there are these people, and I'm not kidding, genius people, these individuals. I'm the only woman, of course, at the time, and all these people who are just crazy smart people. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. I don't fit in. I'm not like these people. And so for 2 weeks, I'm not kidding, 2 weeks, I'm like, I can't eat, I can't sleep, and I'm going home and I'm fretting. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible decision. They have no idea that this is maybe not a great fit for me or for them, because I'm just not like these people. So I don't know if you've had this experience in life, Liz, where you, even years later, doesn't matter how old you are, you can just transport yourself back to that very situation. You know what you were wearing, you know what the room looked like, you know where the person is that you're talking to, everything. You can just remember it almost like it was yesterday. And that was that case, because I went to my boss and um, and bless him, his name is Mark Delabona. And if you're still out there somewhere, you are like a role model to all bosses of early career professionals. But I said to him, I said, Mark, I've been thinking about this for a while. I've been not sure that I fit here. I see all these people, they're crazy smart, and I just don't feel like I'm anything like them. And maybe I just don't belong here. And he said, why do you think we hired you? And I said, I have no idea, because I'm just not like these people. They're so intelligent, they're so capable, they're so competent. And that's just not me. I'm not sure of myself. And he said, why do you think we hired you? And so after about 3 times of him asking me that question, I kept saying, well, I'm different. I'm just not like those individuals. And he finally said, why do you think we hired you, for the 3rd time? And I said, oh, because I'm different. And he said, absolutely. He said, you're the person who's going to look into the white space and find the thing that nobody's ever thought of before. And you're going to mobilize all those genius people in order to be able to produce something that the world has never seen. And why do you think we wouldn't need someone just like you? And I think that was so important to have that at that time in my career, because I was young, I was new, I was different. But what I've always felt in my career is that I use difference to make a difference. I believe that by finding those things that other people haven't found, or maybe aren't willing to do because it's risky, or sometimes it's that task that nobody really cares to do because they're not sure whether they're going to be able to pull it off. I thrive in that world. I seek those things out, in fact, because I don't believe the word no exists. I'm an optimist. I believe anything is possible. And so if somebody says it's not possible, that's exactly where I want to start. So, and I have to give all credit to Mark at that time, because without those words of wisdom and support, I'm certain that I would not have had the experience that I did, because every job that I took, every opportunity that I excelled at, really had that in mind. Is how can I bring the difference that I have into that situation of uncertainty and opportunity and make a difference? So I guess that would be my personal story.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I love the idea of being an optimist in general, but very importantly, being an optimist for your own future. And that's what I'm hoping people will do as we start planning for our futures today. Thank you
Yes.
so much, LuAnn. You've made a huge impact, I'm sure, to the team listening today. And also, I'll be posting this for the entire Women in Project Management network that we have, so that everyone can take a view on what they can do to start to emulate some of the things you've talked about today.
Great. Well, thank you, Liz, for inviting me. It's been delightful to be here, and I look forward to seeing some of you. Seeing you again, Liz, but any of the members that are listening to this, if you see me or want to reach out, I'm on LinkedIn, would love to build a relationship. And as you said earlier, being a mentor makes you a better leader. So where I can help, please let me know. And thank you for the invitation to be here today. I really appreciate it.